It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend observations brought to you by Miller Lite. Great taste, 96 calories, available for delivery. Dan, their own fans question them and their star player, saying he was too distracted dating a global pop icon. They wondered if maybe their window had closed after going down on the road 14-0 to Aiden O'Connell. But Dan, after closing the game on a dominant 31-3 run, make no mistake about it, Travis Kelce and the Kansas City Chiefs are back. They're back.
I mean, they didn't really go anywhere.
Well, they did for me. Ryan Day can't win the big one. You know what the D in Ryan Day stands for, Dan?
I do not.
Do it against Michigan. The game will never be the game again. It's over. Hey, the game. It was nice knowing you. I'm sad about the game. I enjoyed the game. I enjoyed the weekend. 12-team playoff ruins everything.
I don't know. They can match up as the 11 and 12 team
it doesn't
in
matter.
future incarnations of the game, and it will be just as important.
No, it won't.
It's a shot at the playoffs on the line, and I still think Ohio State has a shot at the playoffs.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they do. There's a whole chaos theory.
They're not getting in.
There's a chaos theory.
Mike, how do they get in?
They're one loss. They have the best loss out of the one losses.
Right. But
that's how we do this. Who has the best loss?
But they lost to Michigan.
Yeah, who I think
Barely
we all
lost
have
to
chalked
them.
as
Barely.
advancing.
They barely lost.
I know they barely lost, but Michigan is in. They're going to beat Iowa, so they're in, right? Alabama, Georgia's getting in. One of those two teams is going to get in, maybe both. If Alabama wins a close game.
Why would you put
then you got
them?
Washington and Oregon. You still got Texas.
I mean, it's weekend observations. We don't need to
You're
turn
going
it
to put
into
Alabama
a CFP
with
debate.
two losses in.
Well,
before?
Alabama
No,
has one loss,
No, but they'd have two losses if they
no,
lost.
but let's say Alabama beats
Georgia,
Georgia in the
close
SEC
game.
title game,
Maybe they
and
both get
Texas
in. Right.
wins the Big 12 game. Then you have a real mess on your hands because you can't put Alabama in over Texas if their one loss comes to one loss Texas. Best loss is Ohio State.
Yep.
And now FSU has ruined it for everybody because they had a gutsy win on the road.
Yep. Get the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. And you know what he'll do? The rest. Maserati Marv. Too bad Maserati Marv's quarterback is Honda McCord.
He had moxie.
He played well.
He played hurt.
That's the best game I've seen Ohio State play this year. It was a loss, but it's the best game I've seen them play.
It's the second game you've seen them play this year.
That's a good point.
Because you've only watched Alabama maybe 7 times over the last 20-year run.
Bragging about watching 3 full
football
football
a full
games.
game. It's a delight.
Week 11, week 12.
Dan Campbell's fake punt call was atrocious. Do me a favor. You're Dan Campbell. If you're going to go for it, shove it down someone's throat. Thanks. You agree?
That's right.
Thank you.
Are you just saying you don't ever watch Thursday or Monday games because there's no other games on those days?
What do you mean?
You're bragging about yesterday watching just
the
one
1
game.
o'clock slate was so bad. I'm normally on the Red Zone or the Jets, but the Jets didn't play.
But you do it every Thursday and Monday is our point.
Well, I do it with every Jet game is what I do. But yesterday it was nice just to sit back and watch Texans and Jaguars the entire game, not worrying about what was going on in Patriots-Giants.
You don't get that
because
panic
nothing was going on.
when you kind of lose, daydream. Maybe you get lost in your phone for a minute and you come back and there's a commercial on and you're like, "What am I doing?"
No.
I punch myself. I'm like, "You stupid! There's football on right now," and you're just sitting here watching a commercial.
Stugotz, you miss Bailey Zappi averaging 1.4 air yards per attempt.
I don't care. I was watching C.J. Stroud.
Bill Belichick would have preferred to be watching C.J. Stroud.
Tyrese Haliburton, 12-2 assist to turnover ratio. Dan, the T in Tyrese stands for taking care of the rock. Congratulations to Jordan Love for saving his job. If you squint, you can see something is there with Sam Howell. Dan, you know what the S in Sam Howell stands for?
Squint.
Squint, you can see something there.
All-Squint team.
How about that?
Wait a minute. Who else is on that team? Will Levis.
for sure.
If you
Sam
squint,
Howell.
you
You
can
gotta
see
squint.
Dan Marino.
I'll be
you
on,
said.
yep, I'll be on it.
Is
Hold
there a quarterback Tony hasn't loved at some
No,
point?
it's crazy. He thinks everybody is Minshew.
He's come around on DeVito.
The passing paisano.
No one loves the 20 to 25 ranking spot of quarterback more than Tony.
But he bailed on the Jaguars.
Did not bail on the Jaguars.
You bail.
Did not bail. Just
Said
said
it was over.
from the
Worst time.
beginning that
Trevor's so
C.J.
good.
Stroud was an electric quarterback. I had that one first.
When did Buzz Williams leave Marquette? Huh? When did that happen?
How many teams ago was
I
that?
know.
How many years ago was
When
that?
you think you've killed Alabama, think again. 4th and 21. 4th and 31, excuse me. Jalen Milroe, ice in his veins. Many people are saying this is the best coaching job of Nick Saban's career. You agree?
I can be talked into that too.
Thank you.
It's not a great team.
It's
The
not.
overpowering talent advantage that Clemson and Alabama had entering the NIL era has dissipated quickly. That's one of the worst Alabama teams, and there's no disrespect to the Alabama team, which is a very good team, one-loss team. But when you compare them to the all-time teams that they've had, this is probably among the worst that he's had outside of year one.
Dan, you know what the oops in Mark Stoops stands for?
Oops.
Oops, we didn't mean to hire him at Texas A&M. The Aggies.
Not sexy enough for the Aggie supporters, so they get Mike Elko.
Mike Elko. Congrats on the $40 million buyout 3 years from now. Texas. Message sent. Arch Manning can spin it. Did you see him?
Texas's receivers are
They're good.
so physically big.
In 12 quarters against Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State, Michigan State scored 3 points. If the Commanders didn't fire Jack Del Rio, I still wouldn't know they hired Jack Del Rio. They also lost the best-looking man in the room. Jack Del Rio was a Commander?
You must have missed that whole controversy.
How did you miss that
I
whole
don't know.
controversy?
Life's moving fast.
It allowed me to point out that Jack Del Rio was once on a picket line and he fought a guy he thought was a scab. It was a Hall of Fame Chiefs receiver who was now in their scouting department. He fought him on the picket line. He was just trying to get into the stadium to go to work.
Dan, you know what the D in Dolphins and the D in Dallas stands for?
I do not.
They stand for do it against a good team. Also, a couple of D's cutting it up.
I thought Denver is now a good team. I
Well,
thought
the time the Dolphins beat them and dropped 70 on them, they weren't.
You wrote that before Denver won?
I did.
Noche Buena can't come quick enough for these teams. They're so excited to actually beat a good team. Miami versus Dallas, Noche Buena.
If you want complete coverage of how the Broncos are now a good team, I suggest God Bless Football today.
Yeah, Billy's on them. Available on Max.
It is not.
Weird. The Chris Paul Scott Foster rivalry deserves a documentary. It does.
The Haberstroh stats on that were crazy. Chris Paul is always favored in games, and he's 3-17 in Foster games and loses by an average of 11 points.
This Ranger team can skate.
I mean, all the teams in hockey can.
No, not like this Ranger team. This Ranger team can skate. They're fast.
It's kind of like in golf when they say he's a good ball striker.
Yeah.
Like I always, whenever they say that about a hockey team, it's a good skating team. It's like I'd hope so. They
It's your job.
They're professional hockey
To
players.
skate, yeah.
I want to know the bat. Like who's the worst skating team in the league? They're just like falling all over each other.
It's a great question. I don't have an answer
They
for
look
you.
like Oklahoma coming out of the tunnel.
Like I feel like all pro golfers are good ball strikers, but they say some are better than others.
The Jets are starting to make my blood boil. Timmy Boyle sounds like he should be on what just happened there? An Irish mob boss. I'll tell you what happened. Thanksgiving happened. Monday happened. God bless football happened. Check it out on Max.
Well, how did you spell Boyle and the Jets are starting to make your blood
Boil.
Oh, come on.
It's not on Max.
It's not on that.
It's on DraftKings Network. though. Did you see you have like a lower third graphic now for God Bless Football?
Really?
Yeah, your
exciting.
face, Billy's face.
That's awesome. Dan, you know what the B in Timmy Boyle stands for?
I do not.
Really? Stands for bad quarterback. All of a sudden, Zach Wilson doesn't sound so bad. Dan, you don't just stroll into Madison Square Garden and beat the Knicks come in-season tournament time. The Mecca. It's a bad loss for the Heat. Kirk Herbstreit needs to slow down. Worried about him. Herbie. He's everywhere, Mike. He's everywhere.
He's still damn good.
I don't care about his dog either.
Whoa.
It's a great-looking dog. I don't need to see it. I don't need to see him buckling it into a private jet seat. I don't need to see it. Enough of the dog.
The video
And get some rest.
of Fowler and Herbstreit watching on a monitor the end of Auburn, Alabama, and behaving like 10-year-old brothers would behave just with their enthusiasm was pretty cool.
The Jets' defense is their offense, and their offense is their defense. I hate them. Mark Sanchez adding Tim Boyle to his holiday gift list. Collision course. Sanchez. Tom Brady complaining about the rules in today's NFL after a rule was created to specifically protect him. Tom, the Stugotz is strong in you. Zion, starting to put it all together. Jake Elliott, clutch. Georgia, do it against Alabama. Death, taxes, and Kristaps Porzingis being reevaluated in a week. The Steelers did what the Steelers do. He's always hurt, that guy. Atlanta Falcons, 5-6, first place, and squarely in the mix. I love it. CJ Stroud, holy sh**. Dan, you know what the F in Frank Reich stands for?
Fired.
Flames under his seat.
This was written before.
I know. I didn't change it.
Fired
You
was
could have
right
pivoted there.
Really?
It's right there.
It's not exactly
How was
thinking
my-
quick on your feet.
How was my F better than your
He
F?
said fired. You could have
Flames.
just been, yep.
I like Flames. I mean, I wrote it. I wanted to say it.
Put it on the poll, Juju. Can you be on the hot seat after you've been fired?
He'll get rehired and be on the hot seat again. I promise you.
That's
He's
not
done.
what
Frank's
you were
done.
saying.
I know.
That's the second shortest tenure in the history of NFL coaching.
If the season ended today, the Falcons and Colts would be in the playoffs, and the Bills and Bengals would not. The hell's going
Bills?
on? I don't know what's happening to me. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
Did you forget your Art Briles joke?
I said, speaking of hell, Art Briles, Dan, those are the weekend observations. I said it. You missed it.
I didn't hear it.
Want to hang out with us? We have a free, open to the public, all ages event going down at Dolphin Mall at the Miller Lite Stage at Vivo Miami. It's all happening December 11th. Please, your God, do not flex Titans Dolphins out of Monday Night Football. There's a chance that happens, but either way, we're going to be there drinking Miller Lite. Yeah, we have a weird conflict.
A little doubleheader that day.
Yeah, it seems as though the Cessa Cyclones are potentially headed to the semifinal of the Battle Court playoffs.
Nice.
And I had been campaigning all year because it looked like we were going to be either the 2 or 3 seed about opening that semifinal up to the public because those Monday, Tuesday games are closed to the public. So the commissioner granted us permission to pack the house for a semifinal to win or potentially move on and win our second Battle Court championship. However, it's the same day as our Miller Lite event. But
At
don't
5
worry.
p.m., luckily.
But what Chris and I have decided is we're going to caravan it. We're going to go from here
Nice.
to the Battle Court Fronton and then to Dolphin Mall, Vivo Miami at the Miller Lite Stage to potentially watch a flex Monday night game. Hopefully not. But the Titans and Dolphins are scheduled to do battle on that day, and we will be there. Usually you have to pay for tickets to see us around December, but this one is free, and it's all brought to you by Miller Lite and Dollar Shave Club. December 11th, we will see you there.
Join us at the Fronton before. Let's pack that house, and then let's all head over to the watch party.
If one game gets flexed, it'll probably be Packers-Giants, right?
They're not. We had Joe Buck on last week, and he said there's just that he doesn't see any flexes being used, even though they have that toy afforded to them this year. Because the case to flex out Miami, Tennessee's not good, but Miami's such a great story. You can't flex out that offense, and you're never going to flex out Packers at Giants because of the market.
Speaking of Joe Buck, Stugotz is angling. He is trying from every angle to get Joe Buck to mention him specifically on tonight's broadcast. He wants himself mentioned as the national protector of other centers who don't get talked about as much as Jason Kelce got talked about. And he has been texting Joe Buck nonstop, trying to manipulate him into mentioning Stugotz on the broadcast today. What is the latest in these negotiations?
Well, what I really want him to do is mention Garrett Brown Bradbury.
That's
because
not true at
he's
all.
the Viking
What- no,
center.
what
And
you
if you're going
really-
to highlight Jason Kelsey, then highlight, Garrett Bradbury and every
want-
other center.
What
I
you
mean,
want is for him to mention you.
Well,
for
I
him-
do,
For
yes.
him to
I
make
do,
you the
yes.
center of
Yes,
attention
yes.
as the worldwide advocate on behalf of centers who are unfairly in the shadow of Jason Kelsey because his brother is dating a pop star.
Right. So I reminded Joe this morning that the Viking center's name is Garrett Bradbury, and I want to hear something about him tonight. He responded, "What number is he?"
All right, so he's
getting there,
He's
Dan.
got time.
Yes.
He's got time.
Yes.
You're negotiating with him,
I am.
and you are trying to get mentioned tonight
Right.
on the broadcast.
Because there's no way he can mention Garrett Bradbury without mentioning me in this show. There's no way he could do it. It's impossible. It'd be weird if he did that,
I mean, he could do it.
Well,
with
yeah, but he
the-
wouldn't do that.
But he could, and he probably will. I don't think he's likely. I'll put it on the poll, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Will Joe Buck reference Stugotz during tonight's game?
Stu's not doing this for himself, though. This is for centers.
It's for Garrett. Yeah.
For centers in general.
Yeah.
Why on earth would he mention you?
Well, because you have to tell the backstory. He's never mentioned the center before. And last
My
week,
good friend Stugotz pointed out that we
Right.
had not covered all centers
I
the
was
same
on
way.
with Dan and Stu last week, and they were criticizing me for only covering Jason Kelsey.
Check them
That's
out
what
now
I'm
on
going
Max.
for. Right.
But when have you ever heard Joe Buck say, like, hey, I was talking to my neighbor Phil and he thought that we should talk about XYZ? Like, why would he ever do that?
Because he has to tell the backstory. Otherwise, it's weird to cover
he doesn't.
Garrett
He's covering
Bradbury.
he's
Billy doesn't
covering
get it.
A football
Yeah, I don't
game.
understand.
You talk about
Right.
the players.
So you just say Garrett Bradbury, and you don't reference that I was on his show, and they criticize me for never mentioning another center other than Jason Kelsey?
Correct.
You have to tell backstory. The guy paints pictures with words, man. That's what he does. You got to tell the story. That's what I would do.
Did I mishear you when he said Billy doesn't get it? Did you mutter, "Neither does Dan"? Did I hear that come out of the side of your mouth? Just-
Perhaps. I mean,
By the way, if you did play it back, Stugotz did not mention Art Briles in his own signature move at the end of Weekend Observation.
Tryptophan,
I'm
man.
tired, Dan. Monday, Thanksgiving weekend. We've been working for 90 minutes so far this week after 4 days off. I'm tired. I can't handle it. That's the reason.
some of us 90 minutes, others, 2 hours, 2.5 hours. God bless football. Check it out on Max.
It's
not on
Max. Let's play this sound, can we? Because the Alabama-Auburn game, I really thought, you have to understand, at this point, I just watch Alabama games for no other reason than to check in to see if they're losing. There's no other reason that I want to watch anything associated with Alabama. I've had my fill over the last 10 to 15 years.
Do they have to be losing late? Like if they're losing in the first half?
All of a sudden, what was happening is I was in a dark parking lot, okay, outside of a dog park, finding on satellite radio the Alabama-Auburn game, and I'm not even watching. They just keep going backwards. It's 4th and goal at the 31. Surely they're not going to win another game like they did with Tua a million years ago on 4th and 1,000,000 yards, and then it's corner of the end zone, and Milroe, this is him after the game, understandably excited. Listen to what he says. You usually don't get it this way. Give me the Heisman. Give me that MFer. Is what he's yelling coming off of the field.
It was a Heisman moment, was it not?
It was.
Right.
It was a great moment to have that Iron Bowl conclude the regular season of the SEC on CBS. They'll still have the title game.
Right.
But there was actually a moment, I'm embarrassed to reveal this, I kind of got misty watching a commercial for Home Depot because they wrapped in a sponsor to all these great moments for the SEC on CBS.
That moment built by the Home Depot.
And, I mean, say what you want about the SEC, overrated, properly rated, underrated, what have you. It has been the marquee conference over the last 20 years of college football. And beyond that, CBS's coverage of the conference extends beyond that too. But there have been so many great, memorable college football moments. And the SEC 3:30 game is always going to be a fixture on the college football calendar. ESPN paid millions upon millions for it. But it's of a time. and that time is ended. And I got kind of emotional watching that game.
During a Home Depot commercial.
During the Home Depot, because they showed all these
What
great,
part of the commercial?
all these great, all the kick six miracle.
Oh, wow.
All the great SEC moments. I think they should have leaned into a little bit more of Johnny Football's upset at Tuscaloosa, because, I mean, Stugotz does it. It's not a bit because he's a Northeasterner that barely pays attention to college football. The bar is do it against Bama, and I think they have earned that. Well, people have done it against Bama only a handful of times, and usually it's that 3:30 window on CBS. So I got a little misty hearing them say goodbye, knowing
It'll
that
just
it's
be
going
on
to
a different
change.
channel now, though.
You know, college football is all changing with these mega conferences, and I know it's going to be on a different channel, but it's also like it was kind of just weird saluting Mizzou and Texas A&M kind of like they had to. Yeah, I mean, they're late, kind of late to this party, you know?
You got emotional.
It means
huh?
Spurrier.
Right. It should be on CBS, though, I feel like, always. It should be on with Vern.
Burn.
Yes.
Now instead of 4:33, it's 4:03.
But it's a perfect send off to that whole coverage, the Iron Bowl, and it feeling like it mattered, and having an all time ending to a series that it only seems like the crazy games are at Auburn too. Like that's a great equalizer between the two teams. The crazy only happens when it's at Auburn.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Are we still making Verns? Jalen's not even the best quarterbacking Jalen in the conference, correct? Because
Jayden Daniels.
Jayden Daniels.
No, I would say he is, because Jaden is the other person's name.
Yes. Yeah, it's fine. So.
That starts with J, maybe.
Did you guys see what the stat was on Daniels, what he's doing per snap? Per snap.
No.
It's more than 10 yards per snap.
Wow. Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's going to win the Heisman. If they were undefeated, it'd be a slam.
He's not going to win the Heisman.
You don't think he will?
No, I think that there's a Heisman elimination game going down on Friday between Penix and Bo Nix. Although Penix tried to inconspicuously leave that game, but he left in a cloak. Yeah. He seemed hurt. Yeah. He seemed injured. It was very odd. But Bo Nix is the odds-on favorite to win.
Mike, Jayden Daniels is having a historical season. And like Lucy's sitting here telling me and Billy every week, he's the best player in the country. Shouldn't that player win the award despite the record?
Tim Tebow did win a Heisman Trophy with Florida, with being like the similar offensive output in that he was their entire offense, and they didn't have a good year that year, the year that he won that. I would say that Maserati Marv is probably the best player in the nation, but he's not going to be in a conference championship game. He's not going to get that spotlight that Jayden Daniels also will not get. That's why I think Friday, Oregon versus Washington, it comes down to Bo Nix and Penix.
Have you heard of a stat like that in your life? Every snap the guy is taking is a first down? He is averaging, every time he takes a snap, producing more than 10 yards a play. That is not something that I've seen.
How are they 9-3?
I mean, it's all bad defense, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
it's
There's only so many first downs you can get.
The
But
SEC,
that is, you would think
Yeah.
that is a bit of a riddle there. That it doesn't sound like they're getting stopped very often. It does sound like if you're averaging 10 yards a snap, you should basically be scoring every time. I feel like. What am I missing? Other than the guy's first name correctly said.
put a little quid on Tyrese Haliburton to win MVP.
Really? Can you?
I mean, he's a huge underdog in it, but I still think that he's been really good. I read something where his coach said he might be the best player in the NBA. And I was like, bullshit. And then I watched him, and he took a leap. I was trying to see if I can bet on him to be most improved player, and you can't do that because he's always kind of been good. I think he was an all-star last year. But
he was great last year.
But I don't think they do that enough, where they take players that were very clearly good, and they took a gigantic superstar step, and that's what Halliburton's done.
His shot is so awkward, though, that it makes you feel like, oh, he's not that good. And then you see he just never misses, and you're like, oh, I guess the awkward shot works.
You can't win an MVP, though, on that team unless you're sort of Russell Westbrook averaging a triple-double all season, correct? Because I do think a lot of people listening to this are not watching Pacers basketball, and they're not watching the range that human being has.
I just had to look him up.
I mean, if you look at the Eastern Conference and have just been like, I don't care about the in-season tournament, there's nothing that they can do in this sport to make me pay attention while football season's going on. I'll come around in the spring. Well, if you look at the standings right now, you'll be mighty confused as to how the Orlando Magic are second in the conference and how the Pacers are the 5 seed right now. Everybody in the Eastern Conference right now is within 4.5 games of one another, from top seed to play-in. It's crazy in the East. So I guess Haliburton's path is take advantage of a really tight conference and somehow finish atop it, which isn't outside the realm of possibility.
But Dan is right. Like, a guy on that team never wins the MVP. It's kind of like what we were saying last segment with Jayden Daniels. He's not going to win the Heisman because of the team he's on. Although you did have Andre Dawson win it the MVP in baseball on a last-place Cubs team. It did happen.
But they're not a bad team. They have a winning record.
Yeah.
They're just a couple of games away from being the top seed. I think it's going to be hard to catch Boston this year. But Haliburton, I'm making the argument for my future ticket, so don't nuke it.
I love how you have them a few games away from being a top seed, and they're right above the Heat, and you were heckling Jeremy before the show about the Heat are just a play-in team.
Locked in. Playing team. I mean, look.
They're right next to each other, and you're like, Pacers looking good, Heat playing.
There's something to be said for beating teams that are worse than you on paper, and the Miami Heat did that. They did that for about a month, and they were feeling pretty cocky. Well, their schedule's going to get mighty tough here. And the second it starts getting hard, they start dropping games.
The answer to your question on the Orlando Magic, they, like Minnesota, are playing number 1 defensive efficiency type of basketball. It's very hard to score against them. But I don't believe a lot of people are watching or caring about what is largely regional basketball in Orlando and Indiana.
Here are 4 of the top teams, according to record. The 4 top teams. 2 top teams in the West, 2 top teams in the East. 2 top teams in the East, Boston, we all figured they'd be there. Number 2, Orlando, as we mentioned. Number 1 and 2 in the West, Minnesota and Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City's fun. So's Minnesota, actually.
So are the Magic.
Oklahoma City's got some problems.
Yes.
The Magic can't be fun.
Yes.
No,
I
they
just
got a
don't
couple.
know. I can't believe it. I haven't watched the second one play. Can't be fun.
They got a star player, Bonchero,
They're the
I think his
Magic.
name is. They got a couple of Bogners cutting it up. They got Suggs. They got Cole Anthony. They're a good deep team. I'm
Gambling
telling you.
again.
Yeah, fantasy too.
And also he's got Google open.
Speaking of gambling, the total number in the Iowa game this weekend was 25. 25 points. It finished 13-10 with 2 blocked field goals.
It was pacing again, though.
It was. In the first half, it was 10-7, and you're like, clearly they'll go over 25. No. How is that possible that the number keeps getting lower? I've never seen a number as low as 25. I'm assuming it's weather. Nope. It's just Iowa.
I didn't realize the game started so early, so I missed it. I've bet all of them all year. I missed this one. I was feeling good about missing it at 17 points, and then it hit.
I've done this a couple of times watching Iowa this season where I'm watching them play, and I'm like, it must be sub-zero temperatures over there because of just how they look and move. I mean, their quarterback looks like he's wearing 7 layers.
They do. They look like they need WD-40 as an offense.
They only have tight ends.
I mean, well, it is tight end you.
It's true.
They got a punter. Lord
do
knows
have
they got a punter.
Oh, yes, they do. The over-under for the Big Ten championship game right now is 35.5. Like, Michigan's going to score that on their own, right?
They showed a graphic during the game, which locally was kicked to my 33 because they had to make room for the Dolphin game. I'm like, this is a perfect game for my 33. And they showed like the 10 lowest totals in college football history. They're all Iowa in 2023, and the ones that aren't just feature military academies. They are in the service academy genre of scoring output.
Well said.
Billy, you were physically yawning as Mike talked. Giant.
He's tired.
I mean, it was talking Iowa.
It wasn't him. You know,
It was
you gotta
Iowa.
make it a thing.
I believe that Iowa football talk, Iowa football watching them, Iowa football being in your neighborhood will create narcolepsy.
Tony
Yeah.
just said he's never seen a second of Iowa
Why
football.
would I waste a
Dude,
second of
if
my
you
life
have the
watching that?
under, it's magical. It's great.
It
You're
feels like
like
a bet and
it's
forget
they
it.
can
always
never
have the
be
ball
great.
in like the middle of the field. It's always 3rd and 8, and then they punt. I'm telling you, have the under. It's
On
great.
3rd down.
No, I'm saying it's 3rd and 8, and then they don't get it.
I wouldn't put it past them, though.
I wouldn't
You
put
say
it
they
past
didn't get it. That's the thing.
I would not put it past them.
Nate, too far.
I'm kind of low key obsessed with Iowa football, and just bringing Lucy onto our staff has made that even more of a thing. But I Reddit, which is a largely terrible place, but they discovered that Lucy is on the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl website. If you go there, and I asked Lucy about it, she confirmed that it's her and that she's been up there for 7 years. That they just haven't updated this photo of her in the stands for the TaxSlayer Bowl.
The Pittsburgh Steelers play offense somewhat like this, Stugotz. And the reason I say it, this isn't the best time to say it, because yesterday they did have a 400-yard game where they outpaced the other team's offense for the first time this season.
They still scored 16 points.
That's correct. They had more than 400 yards for the first time in 58 games.
I saw that stat. They were also 34th, 23-1 in those 50 games.
It's the offensive age of football. 58 games is several seasons.
Keeps winning, though.
There's some Roethlisberger in there, I think. That seems impossible. That's several seasons of we can't put up a 400-yard game. And again, they did it yesterday and didn't score any points. But Browning has that Burrow vibe.
You squint?
Do you have an all-squint team?
Oh,
Of
my
course I
God.
do.
This is so exciting.
All right.
What are we calling this?
The Jameis Winston
Memorial.
LASIX
All-Squint team.
LASIX Memorial All-Squint team.
Yeah.
How
and
are the Steelers 7-4?
Let's play the video here before we get to the all-squint team.
I love this video.
Let's play the video of Jameis Winston being maximum Jameis Winston on the sidelines as Derek Carr. Again, no touchdowns for Derek Carr. That's happened twice this season. There was a stat line earlier this season for Kamara that was 13 catches, 33 yards.
I wish I knew at what point in the game this is. Like, is this after an interception?
No, I know exactly what it is. Ludacris is coming down from the ceiling at
Oh,
the
it's a
start of the clip.
pregame.
So this is
Okay.
while Ludacris is coming down, Jameis said, you know what? Not enough things are going on.
Oh, yeah, you can see Ludacris.
Ludacris is dangling while this is going on.
And he's trying to fire up Derek Carr.
See, this makes it less funny for me because if it was like after an interception, because you see his head dips, he kind of has this thing of like, Jameis, please, not now. But it's pregame, so it kind of makes sense pregame. I wish it was after an interception.
No, there's Ludacris definitely in the background. Yeah, Derek Carr looks like he doesn't want to hear any of
I
this.
mean, why? How tired are you?
Looks up at him, and then his head drops.
He can wear you out, man. I mean,
because
His
you
head
know-
goes.
But you know that's every day, right? Like that's every day that's going on. And it could be about really anything.
It looks like Taffer from Bar Rescue, the way that he's moving around the plant to talk to him.
You could be talking about the season finale of Loki right now. You could be talking about anything.
And Derek's trying to give him the energy, kind of like nodding, just like, yeah, man, I appreciate this. But it's like, dude, please.
Tony, how many people are on your Jameis Winston LASIX Memorial All-Squint team?
6. We've got an OLI too. Yeah.
Can I see this one more time?
it's the best, right?
How does he just has something about him that makes everybody smile at this point. It's incredible.
Except Derek Carr.
Except for Derek Carr. Oh, I would
is
hate to be around this. What is he? And then they showed the credits, but then Cult of Personality hit and CM Punk came out.
I said, you can't do it.
So Complex Sports tweeted this video out with a caption that I don't think is true, but I don't know, where they are saying that Jameis Winston is rapping to Ludacris as this is going on.
No way.
Which I think
It makes
that
sense, honestly.
Derek Carr may want even less.
It also makes me want to know what song.
Wasn't he
Well,
doing
it's
move?
a song when he was
Yeah, it's Move.
Move.
Get out the way.
That's not what's happening. That is what Ludacris came down to. That can't be true.
At least it
Billy,
wasn't What's Your Fantasy?
Billy, are you
Complex is saying this. I don't know. I was gonna joke maybe he's singing this song, but Complex beat me to it, and I don't know if that's true or not.
It'd be more explainable if it
Move
were.
from the bed down to the floor.
But you really think that Derek Carr is your audience? Like, of anyone on that team, you think Derek Carr is the one that wants to hear it, Jameis?
Where are you, Tony, on OLI? Let's start. Can you give us?
Yes, the list, I'll explain it for you. So if you squint, you can kind of see something in this quarterback. It's a list of all quarterbacks. Jameis Winston, all Memorial Squint team. We'll start off in the OLI.
That chocolate, make it melt.
We'll start off in the OLI where a guy that kind of, if you squint, kind of looks like Joe Burrow, Jake Browning. If you squint,
Yeah,
If
no,
you
they're,
squint.
they're
the vibes
both,
are there.
They're
If
both
you
white.
squint, yeah.
If you squint, they're there.
I mean, this was
True or not true?
You gotta
That's what
squint,
the
Dan.
broadcaster says.
He did say he had a They spent a lot of time on whether or not he had a vibe like Joe Burrow, and then the announcer walked it back. He's like, "I'm not comparing him to Joe Burrow, but the vibe
Is there.
The vibe is similar."
And if you squint, kind of see a little Joe Burrow on him. Number 5, the passing paisano, Tommy DeVito.
Oh.
Should it be Paisano or Paisan? Put it on the poll
depends.
at LeBatard Show.
Paisano,
or
Paisan, same thing.
Paisan?
You got to just throw one of these out there.
So this list is crappy quarterbacks.
It's not crappy quarterbacks.
You have to squint.
It's quarterbacks. If you squint, you can kind of see something. And with Tommy DeVito, you can kind of see something. by the
Really
way.
squint, though.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Aiden O'Connell.
Aiden.
Where's the fanfare? The list kind of falls apart.
I'm
without-
sorry, I was
I
just
laid
looking at
out
what.
for it,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I was looking at what's your fantasy lyrics.
Number 3.
Still feels like the list I said.
Tyson Badgett. If you squint, there's something there in
There
Tyson
is.
Badgett.
I agree.
There's something there.
Yeah.
I thought it was Bajent. I'm not
Whatever.
It
the
is.
person.
Special Bajent.
As many.
Doesn't matter. You just go like this.
No, that's for Tommy
Doesn't
DeVito.
matter.
Passing Paisan.
Say whatever
Or
you
Paisano,
want.
depends.
Beijing can scoot, too. Yeah.
Good player. If you
Yeah.
squint, there's
If you
something
squint, yeah.
None of these are good players.
If you squint,
You have to
though,
squint, though.
that's the thing, Dan. You keep forgetting. Yeah, they're not good at when your eyes are open. They may not be that good, but when you squint, you're like, huh? All of a sudden, wait a
Something there,
second.
maybe.
Tommy
No
DeVito, 7
Sam
touchdowns,
Howell's
3
on this
interceptions this year.
Number 2.
Champagne with my campaign. Let me do my damn thing. What's my name? What's my name?
That's my favorite when he was clapping. Number 2 is Will Levis. Obviously, he's squinting. He looks like Dan Marino.
He does.
And number 1.
Number 1. The commander squinted real hard and saw, you know what? We've got a franchise quarterback right here with Sam Howell.